I'm a wedding videographer. I AI enhanced the background audio of my brother's vows. Now 3 lives are over. The red light on my monitor was the only thing keeping me awake at 3:14 a.m. I'm a wedding videographer. I spend my life staring at the happiest days of people who usually hate each other by the time the deposit clears. But this was different. This was my brother's wedding. I was leaning into the screen, wearing headphones that cost more than my first car, using a new AI audio isolation tool. My brother Mark has a habit of mumbling, and my new sister-in-law Sarah insisted that their sacred vows be crystal clear for the final edit. I isolated the track. I scrubbed past the in-sickness and in-health part. I boosted the gain on the ambient mics hidden in the floral arrangements behind them. That's when the glitch happened. Mark wasn't mumbling. He was leaning in to kiss her. But before the lips touched, Sarah whispered 6 words into his ear. 6 words that the guest couldn't hear, but the 32-bit float audio captured perfectly. Is the insurance writer active yet? Mark didn't pull away. He didn't look shocked. He just squeezed her hand and whispered back, signed this morning. Natalie's gear is worth $150K. The accident happens Tuesday. I felt the blood drain out of my face so fast I thought I was going to faint. My hands went cold. My heart didn't just race. It hammered against my ribs like it was trying to escape. Natalie, that's me. I stared at the waveform on the screen. It looked like a jagged mountain range. I hit play again, praying I had misheard. But then I heard a third voice. A voice coming from the best man mic, my best friend. Tyler, he whispered from 2 feet away. Don't mess it up. Mark, my debt collectors don't wait until Wednesday. I didn't move for 10 minutes. The silence of my studio felt like a physical weight pressing on my chest. I looked at the 3 of them on the screen, frozen in a 4K frame. Mark, my only brother. Sarah, the woman I'd welcomed into the family. Tyler, the guy who gave the toast at my college graduation. They were all smiling. They looked like saints. I'm a tech geek, but I'm also a business owner. I know exactly what Natalie's gear is. It's a custom-built red V-Raptor camera, 3 Cinema Prime lenses, a heavy-duty drone, and a mobile editing suite. Total replacement value, $152,000. I checked my business insurance policy on my phone. 2 weeks ago, Mark, who works as an assistant at my insurance agency, had called me. He said he'd found a loophole to lower my premiums if I added him as a secondary equipment manager. I'd thanked him. I called him the best brother in the world. I checked the policy updates. He hadn't lowered the premiums. He'd added a personal accident and theft rider that paid out a double indemnity lump sum if the equipment was lost or destroyed while the manager, Mark, was supervising a shoot. The payout wasn't just $152K with the rider, it was $300,000. My stomach did a violent flip. I scrambled to my feet and ran to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. My phone buzzed on the counter. A text from the wedding recovery group chat. Sarah, 3:32 a.m. Hey Nat, hope the footage is looking amazing. Mark and Tyler want to help you film that climbing sequence at the Gorge on Tuesday for the promo video. We're so excited to help you grow the business. The climbing sequence. The Tallulah Gorge, a 500-foot drop onto jagged rocks. They wanted me to hang off a cliff with $150,000 of gear while my brother held the rope, and my best friend spotted me. I looked back at the AI-enhanced audio logs. I noticed a file. I hadn't opened yet, the prep room audio from the morning of the wedding. I clicked it. The first thing I heard was my brother's voice, cold and laughing. She's so desperate for family that she'll literally walk off a cliff if I ask her to. It's almost too easy. I sat back down in my editing chair. The sadness was gone. In its place was a white-hot clinical rage that made my vision sharpen. They thought I was desperate for family. They thought my need for connection made me a Mark. I stopped being a sister. I stopped being a friend. I became the architect of my own crime scene. I opened a fresh project file. I titled it The Final Cut. I spent the next 4 hours doing what I do best, editing. But I wasn't making a wedding video. I was making a documentary of a murder plot. I synced the altar whispers with the video. I pulled the prep room, audio where my brother mocked my desperation. I pulled the insurance documents Mark had forged. Then I went into Tyler's social media. Tyler, my best friend. He'd been posting about a massive crypto win lately. I used a simple deep web search tool, the kind I used to find unlicensed music use, to track his username. He didn't have a crypto win. He had a $60,000 gambling debt to a high-interest private lender in Atlantic City. The pieces were a perfect, disgusting puzzle. Mark and Sarah needed the money for their new life. Tyler needed it to keep his kneecaps. And I was the sacrifice that would pay for all of it. I looked at the clock. 3 a.m. Tuesday, the accident day was only 48 hours away. I sent a text back to the group chat. Me, 7:04 a.m. Sounds great, guys. Let's meet at the North Rim Trailhead at 10 a.m. on Tuesday. I'm bringing the full rig. This is going to be legendary. Then I made 3 phone calls. First, to a private investigator who specializes in insurance fraud. Second, to a friend who works in high-angle search and rescue. Third, to the local precinct. I didn't want them arrested yet. If they were arrested now, they'd get a slap on the wrist for conspiracy. I wanted them to actually try it. I wanted the moment of the betrayal caught in 8K resolution. I spent Sunday night packing my gear. But I wasn't packing my $150K red camera. I was packing 3 stunt cameras. Cheaper models waited to feel like the real thing. I also packed something else. A hidden body mic that was hardwired to broadcast a live stream to a private server. As I zipped the bag, my brother called. Hey Nat, just checking. You're definitely bringing the expensive lenses, right? The double indemnity ones? I looked at the security feed on my phone. My father's black SUV was idling at the curb outside my building. He didn't know I was still at the office. He thought he could corner me in the hallway, play the patriarch card, and intimidate me into silence. I'm not at home, Dad, I said. My voice as flat as a dial tone. The silence on the other end lasted 5 seconds. Then where are you? I'm at work. I'm looking at the Atlantic City withdrawals. I'm looking at the 1.2 million you siphoned from Aunt Martha and Uncle Jim. And I'm looking at the 3 credit cards you opened in my name. I heard his breath hitch. The calm mask was slipping. Now listen to me, you ungrateful... No, I interrupted. You listen. You didn't just forget my birthday. You used my credit to buy the champagne for the party you didn't invite me to. You stole my name to build a life for a son you actually like. We did it for the family, he hissed. Your brother needed a win. He was struggling. You've always been the stable one. You don't need the money like he does. I don't need my own identity, I asked. The rage was starting to burn through the cold. I don't need a credit score that isn't in the 500s because you wanted a boat? If you go public with this, the bank takes the penthouse. Your brother loses his job. I go to jail. Is that what you want? To destroy your own blood over a dinner bill? I'm not destroying the family, Dad. I'm just auditing it. I hung up. I didn't wait for him to call back. I blocked his number. I turned back to the monitors. I needed one more piece of evidence to seal the coffin. I went into the firm's deep search database. If my brother was a regional sales support associate, I wanted to see his expense reports. What I found was the final nail. My brother hadn't just used the stolen trust money for the penthouse. He had been reimbursing himself for fake travel, expenses at his company using a shell company my father had set up. They weren't just running a Ponzi scheme on the family. They were embezzling from a Fortune 500 company. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore. This was a federal crime. If I stayed silent now, I wasn't just a victim, I was an accomplice after the fact. I looked at the group chat. 2:28 a.m. My brother posted one last message. Last call for drinks. Natalie, hope you enjoyed your solo cake. Some of us are meant for bigger things. I felt a ghost of a smile. He was right. He was meant for a much bigger sell. I pasted the link. I hit send. The blue bar crawled across the screen. 10%, 50%, 90%. Sent. I watched the read receipt start to pop up. 1, 5, 12, 30. Then, my screen went black. A notification appeared that I didn't recognize. Remote access initiated by admin PC. My father wasn't just a gambler. He had a backdoor into my firm's server. The screen was a void. A single white cursor blinked in the center, mocking me. Remote access initiated by admin PC. Panic flared in my chest for exactly 3 seconds. Then the forensic accountant in me took over. My father was smart, but he was old school. He thought remote access meant he could just delete the files and the problem would go away. He didn't realize that the second I hit send in that group chat, the link was cached on 40 different devices. He wasn't deleting the evidence. He was just confirming his guilt. I grabbed my laptop and hardwired it into the firm's mainframe, bypassing the compromised Wi-Fi. My fingers flew across the keys, a frantic race against the man who gave me my name. I didn't try to kick him out of the system. Instead, I opened a screen record and a packet sniffer. I watched him in real time. I watched his cursor hover over the audit folder. I watched him try to drag it to the trash. I watched him frantically searching for the source logs of the Atlantic City. Withdrawals. He was sweating. I could feel it through the screen. Then a chat box popped up on my monitor. Not a group chat. A direct system-level command line message from him. Admin PC. Delete it, now! I'm giving you one last chance to save this family. If you don't, I'll tell the medical board about your sister's prescriptions, and I'll tell your firm you've been using their servers for personal vendettas. You'll be disbarred before the sun comes up. I stared at the screen. My sister. My quiet, perfect sister who was a pediatric nurse. He was willing to burn his own daughter just to keep the golden sun in his penthouse. The noose is already tight, Dad, I whispered to the empty office. I didn't delete a thing. Instead, I sent a command to the firm's security team. System breach in progress. Terminate all remote sessions and log IP source for law enforcement. Then I turned back to my phone. The group chat was no longer silent. It was a digital riot. Aunt Martha, 2:41 a.m. Is this real? Natalie, tell me this is a joke. This says my retirement fund was used for a down payment in April. I was told that money was in a high-yield bond. Cousin Leo, 2:43 a.m. Wait, look at page 14, the trust fund signature. That's not my handwriting. Someone forged my name to release the funds. Brother, 2:45 a.m. Natalie is having a breakdown. Don't click the link, it's a virus. He's bitter because he was alone on his birthday. He's making it all up. I didn't respond to my brother. I didn't need to. Because at 2:47 a.m., my uncle, the one who works as a senior VP, at the very bank my brother used, posted a single screenshot. It was an internal transaction, record confirming the wire transfer from the grandfather's trust into my brother's personal account. Uncle Jim, 2:48 a.m. It's not a virus. It's a confession. My office is opening an official fraud investigation at 3 a.m. God help you both. I felt the weight of the night finally start to crush me. I leaned back in my chair, watching the read receipts for my father's system threat climb to 40. He had sent his blackmail attempt to the entire group by mistake in his panic. The silence in the office was broken by a heavy thud against the glass front door of the building. I looked at the security monitor. My father wasn't at my apartment anymore. He was downstairs. And he wasn't alone. My brother was with him, his VP suit wrinkled, his face twisted in a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. My brother didn't have a laptop. He had a heavy iron tire iron. He looked directly into the security camera, his eyes bloodshot, and screamed my name. Then he swung. The glass didn't shatter. It was reinforced, but the notification on my phone made my blood turn to ice. Motion detected. Private office entrance. They weren't trying to get through the front. They already had a key to the back. The sound of the back door clicking open echoed through the vents like a gunshot. My father didn't just have remote access to my computer. He had the spare key I'd given him 3 years ago for emergencies. I didn't move. I couldn't. I sat in the glow of the triple monitors, watching the motion sensor logs turn red. My office is at the end of a long, narrow hallway. There's only one way in and one way out. Natalie! My brother's voice bounced off the industrial walls. It wasn't the voice of a VP. It was the screech of a cornered animal. I know you're up there. You think you're so smart? You just destroyed everything. I reached out and hit the record button on my desk mic. I wanted the firm's security server to catch every word. You destroyed it yourself, Leo, I said. My voice projected through the office intercom. The second you spent money that didn't belong to you, it was over. I just turned on the lights. I heard footsteps sprinting down the hall. Heavy, uneven. The tire iron scraped against the metal doorframe as they turned the corner. My father pushed past Leo, stopping at the threshold. He looked 10 years older than he had at dinner. His eyes were darting between my monitors, seeing the logs of his failed breach. End it, my father breathed, his voice trembling. Call the family. Tell them you were high. Tell them it was a revenge prank because we missed the dinner. We can still fix the bank records if we move fast. Fix them with what, Dad? More stolen money from Aunt Martha? Leo stepped forward, the iron bar gripped in both hands. You don't get it. I lose the penthouse, I lose my career. I'm not going back to a cubicle because you felt lonely on your birthday. You're not going back to a cubicle at all. Leo, I said, looking him dead in the eye. I sent the audit to your HR department's ethics and compliance tip line 10 minutes ago. They already have the shell company records. Leo's face went from red to a sickly, translucent white. The tire iron slipped an inch in his grip. You did what? It's an automated system, Leo. Once the file is uploaded, it's time-stamped. It can't be retracted. The silence that followed was heavy. Then my phone chimed. It was a notification from the family group chat. Cousin Sarah, 3:12 a.m. I just called the police. They're asking for the address of the restaurant where the fraud occurred. Natalie, where are you? My father heard the chime. He saw the look on my face. He realized the patriarch was dead. The family was gone. There was only the law now. He turned to Leo, his voice cold and desperate. Give me the bar. Dad? Leo stammered. Give me the bar. If he's incapacitated, we can claim he's unstable. We can delete the local drive before the cops get here. It's the only way. My father reached for the weapon. My own father was ready to assault me to save a balance sheet. I felt a surge of nausea so violent I had to lean against the desk. As Leo handed the iron to my father, the office elevators chimed. The doors slid open, but it wasn't the police. It was my mother. She was holding a manila envelope. Her face streaked with tears, but her eyes were hard as flint. She looked at my father and said, Don't bother, Howard. I already called the feds, and I brought the other ledger. The tire iron hit the industrial carpet with a dull thud. My father's hand stayed frozen in midair, reaching for a weapon that no longer mattered. My mother stepped into the office. The manila envelope clutched to her chest like a shield. She didn't look at me. She looked at the man she'd shared a bed with for 35 years. The other ledger? My father's voice was a ragged whisper. Martha, what are you talking about? The one you kept in the floor safe under the guest room rug, she said, her voice trembling but certain. The one where you tracked the kickbacks from the construction contracts in the 90s. The one you told me was just business notes. I felt the room tilt. This went deeper than a trust fund. This was a lifetime of professional rot. Mom, stay back, I said, finally finding my voice. I stood up, keeping the desk between me and the two men who looked ready to snap. I'm done staying back, Natalie, she said, finally turning to me. Her eyes were red, but the clarity in them was terrifying. I saw the link. I saw the credit cards you found. I knew they were using your name for the consulting fees, but I told myself it was just for tax strategy. I didn't know they were stealing from the kids. I didn't know about Martha's pension. You knew enough, Leo screamed, his voice cracking. You signed the papers, Mom. You enjoyed the summer house. You're just as guilty as us. I was a fool, Leo, not a thief, she snapped. She threw the envelope onto my desk. It slid across the wood and hit my keyboard. That's the offshore routing numbers. He didn't lose all the money in Atlantic City, Natalie. He's been moving it to an account in the Cayman Islands for years. He was planning to leave us, both of us. My father's face didn't just go pale, it went gray. The family man persona didn't just crack. It disintegrated. I was doing it for our retirement. My father roared, taking a step toward her. You were doing it for yours, she countered. My phone vibrated on the desk. The family chat was a blur of notifications, but one stood out. Uncle Jim, 3:22 a.m. Cops are at the house. They said Howard's SUV is gone. Natalie, if you can hear this, lock your doors. They're coming for you. They're already here, Jim, I whispered, though no one could hear me. I looked at my monitors. The security feed showed 2 patrol cars pulling into the firm's parking lot. Their blue and red lights painting the brick walls in rhythmic flashes of emergency. My father saw the lights reflecting in the window behind me. He looked at the tire iron on the floor, then at the envelope on my desk, then at me. You really did it, he said, and for the first time he sounded small. You destroyed the name. Over a birthday. No, Dad, I said, reaching for the desk phone to buzz the security gate. I saved mine. The sirens grew louder, screaming as they climbed the ramp to the executive level. But as the police burst through the back door, my brother didn't move toward me or the exit. He lunged for my mother's manila envelope. He didn't want to hide the evidence. He wanted to swallow the only leverage he had left. As the officers tackled him, he screamed, It wasn't Dad's idea! It was hers! She's the one who told us to use Natalie's name. The office exploded into motion. 4 officers swarmed over the desk, pinning Leo to the floor before he could rip the envelope. He was sobbing now, a guttural, pathetic sound that filled the room. She told us! Leo shrieked, his face pressed against the carpet. The consultant files. Mom showed us how to do the routing so it wouldn't hit our personal returns. She's playing you, Natalie. I looked at my mother. She stood perfectly still as the blue and red lights strobed across her face. She didn't flinch. She didn't defend herself. She just stared at the handcuffs being ratcheted onto my father's wrists. Is it true, I asked? The words felt heavy like lead in my mouth. Did you show them how to use my name? My mother finally looked at me. Her expression was unreadable. A mix of pity and something cold. Something ancient. I protected this family for 30 years, Natalie, she whispered. In this world, you're either the one holding the pen or the one being written about. I wanted to make sure we were the ones holding the pen. She wasn't a victim. She was the architect. My father was the gambler. My brother was the greedy front man. But my mother was the one who knew where the bodies were buried, because she dug the holes. One of the officers approached me. Are you the caller? Natalie? I am, I said, my voice sounding like it belonged to a stranger. We need you to come down to the station to give a formal statement. We have the local files, but we're going to need a full export of that server you were tracking. I nodded, moving like a robot. I began the data dump to an external drive. My father was let out first. He didn't look at me. He looked at the floor, his shoulders slumped. The patriarch reduced to a frail old man in a wrinkled windbreaker. But as they led my mother out, she stopped. She leaned in close to my ear, her breath smelling like the expensive wine they'd been drinking at my brother's party. Check the last page of that ledger, Natalie, she hissed. The one from the safe. See who the beneficiary of the Cayman account is. It's not your father. And it's not me. The police led her away before I could respond. I turned back to the desk. My hands were numb. I opened the manila envelope and flipped to the very back. Past the routing numbers, past the shell companies, past the offshore registrations. I reached the final page. It was a notarized letter of instruction for the Cayman Island funds, the hidden $240,000 that was missing from the trust. I read the name on the document. I read it 4 times. The beneficiary wasn't my brother. It wasn't my parents. The name on the account belonged to a woman I'd never heard of. A woman named Elena Vance. Attached to the back of the page was a birth certificate from 3 years ago. The father's name was Leo, but the mother's name was my ex-fiancé.
The name on the birth certificate didn't just hurt. It erased the last 3 years of my life. Elena Vance, the mother, Claire, my Claire, the woman I was supposed to marry 3 years ago until she suddenly got cold feet and vanished from my life, claiming she needed to find herself in Europe. I looked at the date of birth. Elena was born exactly 9 months after Claire broke our engagement. My brother didn't just steal my identity. He didn't just steal my inheritance. He stole my family. He had been supporting my ex-fiancé and their secret child using my stolen credit cards and the money he'd siphoned from my grandfather's trust. I felt a cold, oily slick of bile rise in my throat. Every late night at the office Leo had bragged about, every business trip my parents had praised him for, he was with her. He was playing house with the woman I'd bought a ring for, using my money to buy the diapers and the formula. I grabbed my phone and unmuted the family chat. It was a graveyard of deleted messages and legal threats, but I didn't care. I scrolled to my brother's contact. Me, 3:42 a.m. I found the birth certificate. I found Elena. A minute passed. Then another. The typing bubbles appeared, vanished, and appeared again. Brother, 3:44 a.m. Natalie, please! Don't bring her into this. She didn't know where the money was coming from. She thought I was the one who made it. She thinks I'm the VP. Me, 3:45 a.m. She knew who I was. Leo. She knew whose name was on the credit cards she was swiping at the pediatrician. Brother, 3:46 a.m. Dad told me to do it. He said you were too weak to keep her. That the family needed a legacy and you couldn't provide it. He said if I took care of her, he'd make sure I was the one who inherited the firm.
I dropped the phone. The office felt like it was shrinking, the walls closing in. My father hadn't just been gambling with money. He'd been engineering a better version of his lineage. He traded my happiness for a grandchild he could control. I turned to the lead officer who was waiting by the door. I need to add another charge, I said, my voice sounding like cracking glass. Interstate custodial interference and grand larceny. There's a woman and a child. I have the address. I didn't wait for him to respond. I sat back down at my computer. I had one more audit to perform. If Claire was in on this, if she had been knowingly using my stolen identity to fund her life with my brother, she wasn't a victim. She was a co-conspirator. I pulled up the credit card statements one last time. I looked for the delivery addresses. There it was. A small, expensive condo in a town 2 hours away. The utilities were in my name. The lease was in my name. I pulled up the smart home security logs for the condo, logs I had access to because, on paper, I was the owner. I clicked the front door camera history from earlier tonight. At 8 p.m., while I was sitting alone in that restaurant, a car pulled into the driveway. My mother got out. She wasn't holding a manila envelope. She was holding a birthday gift. And she wasn't alone. My mother didn't look like a woman caught in a fraud scandal. She looked like a doting grandmother. She walked up to the front door of the condo I was paying for, carrying a large box wrapped in blue paper. The door opened and there was Claire. She looked happy. She looked healthy. She looked exactly like the woman I'd spent 3 years mourning. Behind her, a toddler with my brother's eyes toddled into view. My mother knelt, kissed the child, and handed Claire a stack of cash, the kind of untraceable cash my father had been withdrawing from Aunt Martha's pension. They were all there. While I was staring at 40 empty chairs, my entire family was 2 hours away, celebrating my brother's promotion and the child they'd hidden from me. They hadn't forgotten my birthday. They had just moved it. I closed the laptop. The silence in the office was final. I gave the police the address. I gave them the logs. I gave them the names. 3 months later, the fallout wasn't like the movies. There was no big dramatic courtroom speech. It was a slow, agonizing death by paperwork. My father pleaded guilty to 3 counts of wire fraud and 2 counts of identity theft. Because of his age and the restitution he made using the last of the Cayman funds, he got 5 years. He'll likely die in a federal wing. My brother lost the penthouse, the VP job, and his freedom. He's serving 3 years for embezzlement. Claire was charged as an accessory. But she took a plea deal, testifying against my mother in exchange for probation. She's living in a 1-bedroom apartment now, working a retail job, finding out what life is like when you aren't swiping someone else's soul. My mother, she was the smartest of them all. She claimed coercion. She claimed she was a victim of my father's abuse. She walked away with a suspended sentence and a reputation so toxic that even her own sisters won't speak to her. I got my check. 127,0843.17. My portion of the trust plus interest, plus the restitution the court ordered from my brother's liquidated assets. I spent it on a house. A small place with a garden and a gate that requires a code only I know. I'm sitting on my porch now. It's my 35th birthday. My phone is on Do Not Disturb. There are no balloons. There is no $4,200 dinner. I have a single cupcake with 1 candle. I look at the empty chair across from me and I don't feel sad. I feel clean. The audit is over. The books are balanced. My brother texted me today from the prison tablet. Are you happy now? You're all alone. You have nothing. I didn't reply noted this time. I didn't reply at all. I just blew out the candle and watched the smoke disappear into the night air. Final word. Being alone isn't the same as being abandoned. I'd rather be alone, with the truth than